joined a bowling league. It's on, and it's Thursdays, so I'm wearing my bowling shirt. You know, sort of like how in high school, you know, you'd wear your jersey on game day to school. It's kind of the same vibe I'm trying to attain here.
Yeah. The question is, do you have a girl wearing your like other colored or your away bowling shirt to school?
Oh, that would be huge.
Hey everybody, welcome into Monkey Knife Fight Super Bowl 56 preview show. I'm Dan Watkins. Joining me, the dynamic duo from RotoWire, Nick Whalen and John McKechnie. Boys, how we doing? Nick, start with you, man. It's been a while since we've all caught up. What's going on?
It has been a while. A lot of things going on in the NBA world. So I'm kind of double teaming the MKF show, kind of have my Adam Schefter phone out. Might have to take some calls like Woj, depending on what goes down here. We're about 55 minutes from the end of the NBA trade deadline, but excited to talk Super Bowl in honor of Cincinnati. I even have a bowl of chili here that I will be, covertly consuming throughout the show, but really excited. I mean, that week, Pro Bowl week, which it feels like, I don't know if this is just a thing when I was a kid. Like I used to get really jacked up for the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl has been in a steep decline for the better part of the last 2 decades, but it's a long 2 weeks between conference championships and the Super Bowl. So really glad that we can start ramping up and, really, really excited for Sunday night.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is like the best sports media week of the entire year. So much going on. Lead up to the Super Bowl. If you're lucky enough to be on Radio Row, that's like the mecca of being in sports media this week. And then you got the NBA trade deadline. You got coaches getting fired in other sports. You got baseball doing whatever the hell they're doing. As that we're talking about that. You got some retirements going on. And then, of course, you got Aaron Rodgers playing golf at the Waste Management Open in Phoenix because, he doesn't go to Super Bowls anymore. But anyways, we also have John McKechnie here. John, how's it going, buddy? Victory tour over. What are we doing? Are we still taking victory laps from Georgia, or what are we doing with that?
Yeah, still living high on the hog from that one. I guess last time we talked I was corresponding with you live from Indianapolis. May have been feeling maybe less than 100% for that show, but like the Jordan flu game, you battle through it, and you just keep ticking. But ever since then, thanks to the USPS, finally a lot of my national championship gear and memorabilia has shown up at my residence. And also since then, as I kind of teased, maybe last NFL show that we did, joined a bowling league. It's on, and it's Thursdays, so I'm wearing my bowling shirt, sort of like how in high school, you'd wear your jersey on game day to school. It's kind of the same vibe I'm trying to attain here.
Yeah. The question is, do you have a girl wearing your like other colored or your away bowling shirt to school?
Oh, that would be huge. All right. So you're always full of good, innovative ideas. And this is one that I think is worth exploring.
Absolutely. I mean, you got a very, very nice Charlie Sheen vibe going on right now from 2.5 Men. I love it. It's awesome. It's a question for you though, John, since you went to the national championship game, long suffering Georgia fans finally break through. Kind of put you guys, similar mindset for Cincinnati this week going into the Super Bowl, long suffering Cincinnati Bengals fans. And I noticed for you, as some of the fantastic content that you put out during the national championship game, at one point, it just all of a sudden your shirt was off. So at what point, do you have to have the lead for the shirt to come off? Is that like is that like the reverse of a rally cap in baseball? Like what is the protocol there with shirt on or off?
Right. So obviously there's an art to it. You got to pick your spots. You don't want to just, go tarp off for, just a first down or something like that. It has to be an exciting and explosive play. And a lot of the times with football, if there's a fumble, there can be so many things that end up with it getting called back, but a pick six is so clean, and the whole play is going on in front of me. I would have seen if there were flags coming down, but as Ringo kind of had the convoy to the end zone, it was like, okay, it's go time. Tarp's coming off, and that really just kind of sealed the moment. I felt like other people in the section like literally fell over. Georgia fans just like literally overcome with emotion. Everyone's hugging. I think I was the only shirtless one though, but it is what it is. But yeah, it has to be a monumental moment, and certainly one like a national championship pick six ceiling type of play certainly fit the bill.
Yeah, someone's got to start it. It's like some guy's got to try to start the wave. Someone's got to try to start the shirt off campaign.
Right.
But good work. Good work. It wouldn't be a Monkey Knife Fight NFL preview show without a Jags minute. Nick, Doug Peterson, thumbs up, thumbs down. How we feeling?
Thumbs right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Medium. Disastrous hiring process, obviously. Peak comedy. They bungled it as much as they possibly could. You have a franchise icon in Byron Leftwich who is essentially saying, I will take this job. All you have to do is fire your horrific GM who no one in the league wants to work for and who's done nothing but make bad decisions. That's all you got to do. And they're like, you know what? I'm sorry, Byron. We cannot do that. So to pivot to Doug Peterson, like it could be worse. It's a pretty safe hire to me. Like it feels like it's guaranteed to not be a disaster on the level that it was last year. Like Urban Meyer was, and I think even more so in retrospect than at the time, a high risk, high reward hiring. And obviously, it trended more toward the high risk part than the high reward part. With Peterson, I feel like it's low risk, low reward, or like medium reward. And I know he's won a Super Bowl, but it's hard to look around the league and see, the coaches that are repeatedly succeeding, Zach Taylor, Sean McVay, LaFleur, Shanahan, even Mike McDaniel now in Miami. It's like, that's kind of the coach that it feels like you want to have, right? This guy that seems like he's new age, he's doing things that older retread coaches aren't doing. And I feel like Doug Peterson is kind of on the other side of that. So again, it's a safe choice. I think it's probably the path of least resistance to going like 6-11 next year, which by Jaguar standards is like 17-0. So I get it. You're kind of bringing in a floor raiser, but I kind of would have liked to see them, I guess, take a stab at one of these, next like offensive genius, next in line in that regard. So maybe we'll see. I mean, knowing the Jags, we'll be having the same conversation this time next year, and maybe I'll get my wish.
Yeah, I like how you pretty much just named the entire Sean McVay coaching tree.
Yeah,
right. That's basically what I want. I want Sean McVay coaching
coffee with Sean McVay at one point or another. You are qualified for at least an offensive coordinator position in the NFL.
Makes you more qualified than Josh McCown. Anyway,
that's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, but
at least they didn't hire Lovie Smith, right? I mean, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah. And then Nick, when you said when you described Peterson as a floor raiser, I just think like the old scary movie Hellraiser, but like photoshopped with like Doug Peterson's face with all the pins coming out. The floor raiser.
The floor raiser.
It seems like he's got quite the bromance going on with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, they like FaceTime for like 8 hours or something. Yeah. So, I mean, if it helps Trevor out, I think that's the key to success.
Props to Trevor Lawrence for handling all this like a champ. Like he's basically been doing like massive PR work for the Jaguars this entire time. And like, I don't think they've been asking him to. Like, there's a lot of guys who would just be like, you got to get me out of here or just kind of go silent. Like he's basically been working full time for the Jags PR department since the day Urban Meyer was hired.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Trevor's doing great. He's got that great hair. He can be the front
I think he's going to be just fine
for any sort of PR campaign. Absolutely. Put his face right on there. So Nick, I'm noticing, I'm not quite sure what your hoodie is that you're wearing, but it kind of reminds me of Ricky Prohl. And I thought we would start the show off here when we get into our Super Bowl talk and just like, let's just talk some obscure Bengals and Rams, some favorite Bengals and Rams of all time from growing up or whatever. I'll start and then you guys can kind of take it from there. My favorite all-time Ram, I'm going to go with Az-Zahir Hakeem. Led Super Bowl 36 in receiving with 90 yards. Just a great kick returner, great slot guy, part of the greatest show on turf. Always liked him. Never really got the success that he could have had. Let's just put it that way. But he was super talented. And then the other side, I'm going to go with Jermaine Gresham, tight end for Cincinnati. He kind of just retired. I think he did just retire recently after a stint with the Cardinals, but he was so good in college and he was decent in the NFL. Never quite lived up to the hype though as a first round tight end. Who do you guys got?
Well, I mean, Az-Zahir Hakeem is a free space here. That's obviously where I would have gone. I think that's the most obvious one. And Gresham is a good call. He's like the original version of like David Njoku or maybe even OJ Howard, where it was like, this guy is a lock. He's a physical freak. He was just a monster at Oklahoma. And then you look back and he's like, wow, he played like 10, 15 years in the NFL and was just like never remarkable whatsoever. I mean, there's a number of guys you could go with from that 99 through like 03 Rams era. I think, that's really where you have to kind of aim here. Brandon Maliuna, the tight end, comes to mind. They had some Aeneas Williams, who I think ended up being a Hall of Famer. But that was like really my formative Madden years, when I felt like I knew every single player on every single depth chart because I was constantly playing Madden all day. But yeah, I mean, Hakeem, Ricky Prohl, those are both free spaces. I'm trying to think like anybody on that Rams defense, like Grant Wistrom comes to mind. I think London Fletcher maybe.
That's a
spent some
great
time there.
call. I always liked a couple of their secondary guys that were pretty like swaggy, like Dre Bly was
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
You know, like that was at the time where in the NFL we were starting to see like the skinny elbow pads or like the elbow bands
Yep.
as opposed to like those big fat like rubber ones.
Yep.
So Dre Bly was like a pioneer for that, and like I always thought he looked cool on Madden as a result. So Dre Bly, Todd Light, I think was another guy that might have
I
been.
think he made the tackle, right?
Yeah, exactly. So those guys were really cool. Trung Candidate, there's another name for you. For the Marshall Falk's backup from the Rams. And then as far as the Bengals, I'm a little bit biased in the sense that as a Ravens fan, I had the proclivity to really like the Bengals, although to be clear, I am rooting for the Bengals in this Super Bowl. But you know, I always thought the TJ Houshmandzadeh was awesome. He was just like just a dangerous guy. You know, you have Chad Ochocinco running on one side, and you know, if you take a step off on TJ Houshmandzadeh, you know, you're in deep trouble. And then the Bengals also had a good amount of Georgia Bulldogs for the early part of last decade. So I love Sean Williams, love Geno Atkins. My old Twitter profile picture is myself and Geno when I ran into him in Athens. So he was a nice guy. He actually, I asked him who the toughest guy he goes against, and Dan, you'll appreciate this. He said it was Logan Mankins. Was the guy that gave him the most trouble.
Yep. Great names. I was going through like just some I was going through Football Reference last night, doing a little prep on this. I didn't realize TJ Houshmandzadeh was on the team all the way back to 2001. I thought he was like in 04 to like 2010 was from my memory. But yeah, no, he was there in 2001. Just some great names. Cincinnati Bengals. I always liked Reggie Nelson too, the safety. He was a bit of a head hunter, but, you know, he was.
I would like to say, well, Reggie Nelson, ex-Jag, drafted by the Jags, one of several decent players that they ended up just giving away. One more Ram I want to mention. There's a guy named Yo Murphy. I think he was the backup. He was the backup kick returner to Oz Hakeem. Yep. So you had Azar Hakeem and Yo Murphy on the same team. That Cincinnati, you mentioned that 01 draft, like the class that they brought in. You had Houshmandzadeh, Chad Johnson, then named Chad Johnson, and in the fourth round, Rudy Johnson. And the reason that we bring up Rudy Johnson, of course, one of the pioneers of the full name on the nameplate, which I don't know the last player to do that. There were only a couple, but I always remember him having full Rudy Johnson for some reason.
Wow, that is just incredible. NFL Throwback on Instagram. I don't know if you guys follow that.
Oh yeah,
great account. Their stories this week have just been fantastic. Just Bengals and Rams touchdowns over the years. I mean, there's just been some great Corey Dillon content and some great Steven Jackson content this week. It's just been fantastic.
Both guys, all time like underrated backs, I think, in retrospect. And I mean, not to go too far down the Cincinnati Bengals tangent here. I'm sure we'll talk plenty, but people forget how bad this team was in our, I think all three of our formative years. Like they were the Jaguars of the late 90s, early 2000s, like horrific, just, you know, every single year, one of the three worst teams in the league, could not get out of their own way. Like people rejoiced when Corey Dillon finally got out of there and went to New England. I mean, it felt like they botched like 7 first-round picks in a row. It's actually been, I mean, I would imagine within the last 15 years, they have to be in the top half of the league in wins, right? I mean, since then, or really since Carson Palmer transitioned to Dalton, transitioned to Burrow, they've had very few like truly bad seasons.
Probably, but I mean, Marvin Lewis was the king of being like 8-8. He was like Jeff Fisher after Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically same time. And then I mean, the past couple of years, I mean, they've drafted in the top 5 the last 2, so I think that pulled them down a bit as well. John, go ahead.
But yeah, to what you were saying, Nick, like. And dovetailing off of what you were saying, Dan, like I feel like a Pro Football Reference deep dive is never complete without taking a peek at some quarterback busts. And I feel like Achilles Smith is always just like someone that I gravitate towards. And it's just like, you knew he was bad, but to like actually see the numbers and like how many starts he had and like how small his completion percentage was. I'm not even sure if he threw like more than 5 touchdowns in his career and he was the number 3 overall pick or something. Like it was insane.
5 touchdowns, 13 picks.
That's
yeah. So not the ratio that you want, certainly not the golden ratio, but you know, like Nick said, basically since the Dalton AJ Green draft, they kind of set up shop as like the team that you would always see playing in the first game of Wild Card Weekend. So like they definitely have on balance a pretty decent record over the last decade. Really only a couple of catastrophic ones the year before they got Burrow when they tanked for him. And then obviously when Burrow got hurt last year, things went pretty south for the Bengals. But now they're in the Super Bowl. So that is just, I still can't really believe it. It's really, what a shocker.
Yep, here they are. And let's get to it. Let's get right to the big game and start talking about these quarterbacks. And let's start with Matthew Stafford for the same, excuse me, almost a Freudian slip there. Los Angeles Rams. 288.5 passing yards is his more or less this week on MKF. He's reached 289 or more in 11 of 20 games this season and 2 of 3 playoff games. Bengals were 26th against the pass in the regular season, allowing about 243 yards per game. They've been about the same this postseason, and only one quarterback has thrown for more than 280 yards on them, and that would be the legendary Derek Carr in the first round, wild card round. Cincinnati's secondary isn't great on paper, but they've been forcing turnovers. They've been very opportunistic. Nick, how are you feeling about Stafford Super Bowl Sunday?
I think you have to go over, right? I mean, he's cruised to the over on this number each of the last 2 weeks. He was at 366 against Tampa Bay, 337 against San Francisco. And I don't know that the Rams are going to be able to run the ball all that well on Cincinnati. It seems like really since Odell Beckham has kind of found his groove, this is a team that's found a lot of success with big chunk passing plays. And I think they can do that against Cincinnati. I mean, it's really going to come down to like the Cincinnati defense. Like, I think everybody agrees, or like, I don't know if this is actually a good defense, but it's also a defense that that stopped Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs like 6 out of the final 8 drives of that game or something crazy. Like they just keep finding these ways to, like you said, be opportunistic, get a turnover at the right time, get some timely sacks. All of a sudden it's 3rd and 28. They're a defense that you don't really know what to expect, but continuously throughout this run and even during the regular season, when they need to get stops, they found ways. So I do trust the Cincinnati defense to get some stops in the running game. I think the Rams are going to be forced to throw. And ultimately, I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think you have a really nice crop of receivers that you feel pretty good against that Cincinnati secondary. So I'll go more pretty comfortably for Stafford.
Yeah, Nick, as you mentioned, they've been very clutch this year, getting key stops. Here's a stat for you guys. All 3 of Cincinnati's final plays in their playoff games this year have been an interception. So they've been very clutch so far. John, how do you feel about Stafford?
Yeah, this is a tricky one because, you're counting on him going over 288 yards is legitimately like a big performance, especially in the Super Bowl. But I think he gets there. I see that RotoWire has Stafford projected for 291. So that kind of, it's real close to the number. I think this is going to be a prop that's decided maybe on the Rams' last possession, something like that. So I think it's going to be close. But I tend to agree, Nick, that the run games probably aren't going to be finding a ton of traction in this game. I'm looking for a lot of passing on both sides. And with that, I think Stafford gets to enough. And, you get those yards after the catch from Kupp. You can hit a downfield strike to Beckham or Van Jefferson. And that really puts you in position to hit the more. So I'm going to go with the more as well.
Yep. All 3 of us going more there on Matthew Stafford. Joe Burrow, 280.5 is his more or less for passing yards. He's reached 281 or more in just 9 of 19 games this season and 1 of 3 in the playoffs. Rams allowing about just 220 yards per game through the air in the playoffs. Regular season, they were ranked 22nd, though, against the pass. So they've kind of turned it on a bit, but that could be a little more about the competition they've been playing. Jimmy G and Kyler, not so great passing the ball here in the playoffs, but Brady threw for 329 on them. I think Burrow is going to be closer to that Brady number. John, how do you feel about Burrow with 280.5?
So this sets up really well for Burrow to hit the more, because traditionally over the course of this season, the Rams have been a team that starts hot. They've scored first in like 65% of their games, something like that. And so I do expect the Rams to follow to that type and kind of put the Bengals in a bit of a bind early on to where they can't just lean on Joe Mixon. So I'm looking for a lot of pass attempts from Joe Burrow. And I think that over the course of this game, he will get it. Obviously, the Jalen Ramsey, Jamar Chase matchup is going to be one that it gets a lot of attention. But, the Bengals have really solid pass catchers outside of Chase. I mean, I think T. Higgins is an underrated star. CJ Uzomah's had a kind of amazing mid-career breakout this year. So he's been really impressive. And Tyler Boyd is kind of a forgotten guy, but there's enough there to kind of help elevate Burrow. And I don't think that Burrow in himself really needs a tremendous supporting cast. I think it certainly helps, but I think Burrow's just kind of the man, and I think he's feeling it right now. And I think he comes up huge on Sunday. So I'm going to take the more.
Yeah, I mean, even if he's getting sacked 9 times, it doesn't seem to matter. Joe Cool is getting it done. Nick, how do you feel about Burrow? Is there anybody else on that Rams secondary that worries you besides Ramsey?
No, not at all. And I honestly don't even know the guy's name off the top of my head. Number 11. I feel like every time I watch the Rams, I'm like, this guy looks like he's 5'8", 140 pounds. He's just getting roasted snap after snap after snap. I think they depend so heavily on Ramsey to hold down that secondary that, it's worked. I guess they're in the Super Bowl. I mean, not ideal that you have to bring in Eric Weddle as a reinforcement like 3 weeks before the Super Bowl. But I think this is going to be a back and forth game. Like I really can't quite make up my mind as to who I think is going to win. Part of me thinks like, Cincinnati has had so many crazy comebacks and they've fallen from behind and, been able to come all the way back and win these games. Like, is this maybe the time that, Burrow gets sacked 9 times and you're not going to win that game twice in the same playoffs, like you did against Tennessee. So part of me thinks they could fall behind early, which, if you're going more on this Joe Burrow prop, that might be a good thing because I think he's going to be throwing the ball a lot in the second half. I will say the one thing I'm pretty confident in, I can't see the Bengals winning this in a romp. Like, I don't think there's a scenario where the Bengals are up like 21-6 at halftime and it's, Joe Mixon running out the clock for the last 2 quarters. I think even if this is close, they're going to put the ball in the hands of Burrow. They're going to want to get it to, Tyler Boyd, to T. Higgins, to Jamar Chase. Still an underrated receiving core. I think overall, like Chase, I think it's a warranted amount of attention, but to basically have Higgins and Boyd as your like 2 and 3, I mean, not many teams have a guy as talented as Tyler Boyd as their third receiver. So as great as Burrow has been, I think the weapons deserve a lot of credit as well. I hope and I think we get a shootout on Sunday night. So I'll go more on Stafford and more on Burrow.
I'm going more as well. And I'm hoping, as everybody I think in America is hoping, that we get to see a Joe Burrow 2-minute drill to close this thing out either way. So let's talk a little bit about these skill guys. Jamar Chase, 80.5 is his more or less. Number does seem a little low for Jamar Chase, but it's because he's probably going to have Jalen Ramsey on him all night. So 80.5, he's reached 81 or more receiving yards in 8 of 20 games this season, but he's done that in 2 or 3 playoff games. Nick, can he continue that here in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, you said it with Ramsey. Like if the Rams go Jalen Ramsey shadowing him on essentially 90% of the snaps, I think he goes under. I think Jalen Ramsey wins that battle. I think he's too physical. He's too big. I mean, you watch some of the hits that Jalen Ramsey lays on people as a cornerback. I mean, he's like halfway to a linebacker in terms of the size that he offers at that position. There just aren't many guys in the modern NFL that are built like that and play cornerback. So if that's the strategy they take, I think I would pretty comfortably go under on Chase. But if they move Ramsey around, like I was just saying, you still have Higgins, you have Boyd to worry about. I wouldn't be surprised if in certain formations you want Ramsey shadowing one of those guys. If we see Ramsey move around, I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for Jamar Chase. But man, at the end of the day, I think I'm going to go just under for Jamar Chase.
John?
So my heart says that the over or that the more is in play here, but looking more at it and like Nick said, like the Jalen Ramsey factor, like I think Jamar Chase can win enough times. Like maybe it just takes 2 or 3 times for him to just get a crazy amount of yards after the catch and ends up getting there. But RotoWire has him projected for less than this number, has him coming in at around 75 yards. I think I'll just trust the numbers. I don't like it, and I would prefer to see Jamar Chase go the more route here, but I'm going to go ahead and expect the less.
Yeah, I am as well. I think it's going to be the T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd show, I feel like, in this one for the Cincinnati offense. You got OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., 65.5 is his more or less this week on MKF, 66 or more yards in 4 of 11 games with the Rams, but he's been getting more targets with each week here as the season and the playoffs go on. He's been over that number in each of the last 2 playoff games as well. John, how do you feel about OBJ?
I think we get a more here. Like you said, the target share is trending in the right direction. They're not so over reliant on Cooper Kupp anymore, and that kind of gives Kupp a better like per target chance to really make something happen if he's just not constantly getting all those doubles. But Beckham is playing well. He's rounded into form, clearly comfortable in that offense. I think that we're going to see a lot of him. I think if he gets 6 catches, which is totally in the realm of possibility, then I think he hits the more fairly comfortably here. I see him getting somewhere into the 80 to 90 range, I think, on Sunday. So I'll take the more.
Nick?
Well, I want to break into the show to announce that Ish Smith has been traded back to the Washington Wizards, as predicted by John McKechnie.
Oh my God, I
earlier this
spoke that
morning.
into existence this morning.
He sure did. As we can see here, as evidence. I don't know if the camera will focus on that, but John McKechnie predicted that this would happen at 9:56 a.m. So you beat Woj by like 4 hours here, John. But on the Odell Beckham topic, I'm with you. I echo pretty much everything that John said. It's really interesting how this whole thing has come full circle, because it felt like early on, once Beckham joined the team, there was a lot of forcing him the ball, kind of almost trying to justify the trade. It felt like one or two times per game, Stafford's just closing his eyes and launching one down there. And sometimes Beckham brings it down, sometimes it's picked, sometimes it goes out of bounds. But they've been a lot more controlled, I think, with how they've targeted Beckham over these last few games. And he's really emerged as a legitimate 1A, I think, to Cooper Kupp, who's still clearly the number one guy. But at the same time, doesn't have elite size, doesn't have elite athleticism. Those are the things that Odell Beckham does have, at least the athleticism part of it. So I think it's kind of a two-man show in the passing game for the Rams. Van Jefferson every now and then will show up with like 3 catches for 80 yards. But it really is Kupp and Beckham. And that's how they've operated over these first 2 playoff games. Or last 2 playoff games, I should say. 15 catches for Odell Beckham against Tampa Bay and San Francisco combined. I think he goes more here.
All right, very good. Moving on, Cooper Kupp, 109.5 is his more or less. He's had 110 receiving yards or more in 11 of 20 games this season, including 2 or 3 playoff games. And then 2 of those games that he didn't get to 110, he finished with 108 and 109. So guys, I'm going to kind of change this one up here. Does anyone want to make the case to go less on Cooper Kupp?
It's an impossible case to make, right? You'd almost have to be kind of in like Stephen A mode, where you're just like trying to play devil's advocate. I don't know. Is the case basically it just seemed so obvious that he's going to go over that you want to fade the public or like fade yourself?
Yeah, pretty much. Does anyone want to say he's going to have less than 110 yards? Because I don't.
No, I don't want that.
I don't feel comfortable in that. And like you said, it's a coin flip or a weighted coin flip in the favor of him hitting this number. So like more often than not, he gets 110 or more yards, and that's enough for me. And, the Bengals don't have a Jalen Ramsey to like try to shut him down. He's going to get his. Yeah.
What are they going to put Eli Apple on him? That's just going to be it's going to be assault.
He's just going to keep tweeting at him.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's just move on. We're all going more on Cooper Kupp. Let's move on. T. Higgins, 71.5 receiving yards, more or less for him. He's reached 72 or more in 8 of 17 games this season, including 2 or 3 playoff games. He's had more targets than Jamar Chase each of the last 2 weeks. And if Ramsey's on Chase, I think we're in for a big T. Higgins night. How do you guys feel, John?
Yeah, I'll go with the more on Higgins. Like you said, that this Chase versus Ramsey situation really is going to funnel things. And also, like Nick was saying, the rest of that secondary is not particularly strong, and especially when it comes to the size factor that T. Higgins has. Like, he's a big receiver. He's 6'3", over 200 pounds, and shows all of it on the field. So I like Higgins to be that X factor in this game. I would even like sprinkle a little bit on his MVP odds, because I think that he could have like that type of game where he's such a difference maker throughout, making big catches that he does end up getting some MVP consideration. So I love Higgins this week. I'll take the more.
Nick?
I looked up the name of that cornerback, Darius Williams. He is listed, according to RotoWire, at 5'9", 187. That seems a little generous, if we're being honest here. John said it. I know he's kind of paraphrasing what I said earlier, but they don't have the size. And if Ramsey is going to be on Jamar Chase, I think this is a massive mismatch, especially downfield for T. Higgins. So yeah, if that's the script that we're expecting, again, with Ramsey on Chase, then this is a very easy over for me.
All right, let's move on. We got 2 running backs here. I'm just going to group these guys together because it seems like we're not really expecting much as far as running the football here Sunday night. Joe Mixon is 64.5 more or less for rushing yards, and Cam Akers is 60.5. I'm going less on both these guys. One, Joe Mixon's been very disappointing outside of the AFC Championship game the last 2 months. He has not been very good. And Cam Akers, apparently Darrell Henderson is healthy again, so it could be a 3-man rotation in that Rams backfield. So I like the less on both these guys. Nick, how do you feel?
Yeah, less on Akers for sure, just because of the Henderson factor and the fact that Akers has been a little bit shaky. Had almost an extremely costly fumble that almost resulted in the Rams not being here against Tampa Bay. So if Henderson's healthy, I think they mix him in, and it's pretty tough for either of those guys, to approach 60, 65 yards. Mixon to me is a little bit tougher, but you just look at, the offensive line versus defensive line matchup. And I think that's been like the most cliched position group matchup that you're going to hear talked about all week leading up to Sunday night. But it's true. I mean, you have arguably the greatest interior defensive lineman of all time. You have a Hall of Famer in Von Miller. You have a Cincinnati line that allowed 8 or 9 sacks against Tennessee. Teams win those games. I actually looked it up. I don't have the tweet handy, but if when your quarterback is sacked 8 or 9 times in a game, you win that game like 3% of the time. So, I mean, Cincinnati was extremely lucky to escape that game given the circumstances. And chances are, that they have something in place. You have 2 weeks to prepare for this defensive line. I don't think Burrow's going to get completely battered, but I think this is a game where, like most teams, Cincinnati will try to establish the run. After 2 or 3 drives, it'll be clear that, once you keep finding yourself in 2nd and 9, 3rd and 7, you're going to have to abandon it, and they're going to turn things over to Joe Burrow.
John?
Yeah, so as far as the Akers factor goes, it's tricky because he's gotten like all the work. Like McVay has been very weird with his running back rotations, and that's been the case basically since Todd Gurley got washed up. Like 1 week it'll be a guy exclusively, and then the next week he kind of disappears from the game plan. And now that Henderson is back healthy, there won't be that sort of like job security that Akers enjoyed a couple weeks ago when he had all those fumble issues in Tampa Bay. So if he coughs it up, you got to figure he's hitting the bench. So I think, all things told, I will go with less for Akers. I think that enough people get into the backfield mix, and if he does make that mistake, then he gets pulled pretty, and doesn't really see the field the rest of the game. So I will take the less on Akers. Mixon, I mean, we're so close to the number and what he's been doing as far as his seasonal average is concerned. RotoWire has him at 75. So I will go. I mean, that's a pretty like hefty more. And I think I'll tail that. I'll go with the more for Mixon. I think that the number's just low enough for me to be interested.
All right, very good. Before we get to our predictions, I do have a couple props for you guys I want to talk about. Tried to find some weird ones here, but we'll start with an actual game one. First touchdown jersey number is over 27.5 at even money or under 27.5 at -130. So you go under, you got to think Cooper Kupp, either the quarterbacks runs it in, Jamar Chase could be in there as well, or over, you got all the rest of the guys. So what do you guys like on that prop?
So I actually put down on this bet earlier this week. I made a gambling tour to the great state of Tennessee to put some legal wagers down. And the number I got it at was 23.5. So that still put Cam Akers in play, and I was just bashing him. But Kupp, Odell, even Jalen Ramsey potentially number 5. You either the quarterbacks. Jamar Chase wears number 1. So to me, there's a reason why it's minus money on the under, and I feel very comfortable taking it. Of course, my T. Higgins enthusiasm could put a hole in this whole thing. He wears 85. Respect to Chad Ochocinco once again, but I'm going to take the under 27.5 as the jersey number for the first touchdown.
Nick?
I like the under as well. And, I'm looking I've seen some other sports books that have this prop at 23.5. So you're actually getting some pretty good value here, 4 more numbers to buy in on. But yeah, this basically hinges on Mixon, right? I mean, he's 28. So you're kind of drawing the line there, but I think under's the play. This is all these kids and their low digit numbers, these receivers trying to wear number 3 and number 11 and number 10. It's, back in my day, Keyshawn Johnson wore number 19. That's kind of where you drew the line.
That was risque back. Yeah, absolutely. That was, or the occasional number 10.
Yeah.
Anyways, next one, halftime show. Will Snoop Dogg smoke on stage? Yes at even money or no at -130. This is in the great state of California, so I'm kind of going yes here. I'm definitely going yes here.
I've never seen him not smoking, so yes. I mean, this should be like -20,000 in favor of yes.
Yeah. I mean, he came to URI, like 10, 15 years ago, and he smoked inside the Ryan Center, the auditorium there at URI. So I don't think he'll have a problem lighting one up at SoFi. John?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that Snoop is going to try to set a good example for his youth football league and all that, and not toke on stage. So I'm taking the no.
All right. Sticking with the halftime show, will any part of Eminem's performance be censored? Yes, at minus 180. No, at plus 135. And for this to count, the sound must intentionally cut out or bleep censor used for yes to be graded the winner.
I'm taking the yes. He's gonna say the real lyrics to one of his songs, and we're gonna get hit with about a 5-second just little block of silence. I think. I don't think that Eminem's gonna clean it up for the show, unlike Snoop Dogg, who will, of course.
It's hard to say. I mean, a lot of times they'll kind of self-censor, or they'll do like an edited version of the song where, if the N word or the S word or the F word are included, they'll just kind of like mute themselves. Like the broadcast itself won't be muted, but they'll just skip over it. So I kind of think that's what we're going to see here. Eminem knows what's at stake. This is a big performance. It's national TV. To me, like some people would actually argue, I think, that like swearing during the halftime show is like a much bigger offense than doing the weed during the halftime show. So I think that's what the network probably cares more about at this point.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this halftime show, not just because of the music, but because I can't wait for the text from my parents. It's going to be fantastic. Last year during the weekend, which I think everybody agreed was pretty bad. Oh, my old man was not happy with that. He's like, what?
He's blinded by all these lights. What's going on here?
Yeah, did not like.
Why does he just look away if he's blinded?
Doesn't like all the running around through the maze and all that kind of stuff that was going on there. Anyways, last one for halftime show. First Eminem song to be played. Lose Yourself is the leader in the clubhouse here at plus 175. You have The Real Slim Shady at plus 225. My Name Is at plus 375. That's the one I'm going with, I think, for best odds there. Without Me at plus 750. Stan at plus 900, or any other song at plus 225.
Stan would be hilarious. Just like a really somber start to the halftime show. I think I would go any other song because, I mean, obviously Dr. Dre produced a lot of those songs, so they're all in play. But I think they could go with one that also features Dr. Dre, right? I mean, Forgot About Dre, something along those lines. What's the other one? What's the Difference could be in play here, because you got them both out there. Like, might as well have Dre do some rapping as well. So I think there's some value there.
I just hope he opens up with Drips from the Eminem show. Probably like one of the most profane songs that he's, which is saying a lot for Eminem.
White America.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I like the My Name Is, Dan. I think that might be the way to go. That's a good like intro. He's literally saying what his name is, introducing himself to the crowd. I mean, it's surface level analysis, but it jives. So I'm going to go with My Name Is as what Eminem opens things up with.
Do you guys have a favorite halftime show from the past?
No.
Let's see. I feel like a lot of the rock got like the old rock guys that they especially started to put in after the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake fiasco. Like those were bummers. It was a bummer to watch, like kind of like frumpy Pete Townsend from The Who, like trying to do the windmill and stuff. Like just wasn't great. I was in person for the Beyonce one, so I will say the Beyonce one in New Orleans. They gave us all these little like LED light rings, and we were all supposed to do that during the "Put a Ring on It" song. So I would say I have the biggest attachment to that one. And Prince was good too.
Oh yeah,
the Lady Gaga one was pretty good. I think that was one where I would never consider myself a Lady Gaga fan, but it was like, oh wow, I kind of like that song. I remember that song, and she just kept going hit after hit.
Yep. Yeah, I'd go Prince. Purple Rain in the pouring rain in Miami. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
No.
But no
Katy
love
Perry's
for
was memorable too.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
No love for Left Shark on this show. All right.
Get him out.
Last one, guys. Commercials. Quick commercial to play first. QuickBooks by Intuit. Tax commercial at minus 130, or Taco Bell at even money.
That's tough. I'm going to go Taco Bell. I mean, they've been as aggressive as anybody really in the year of our Lord 2022. Kind of going with that new campaign where people are in like a big moment and then they just walk away. It seems like that's all building toward maybe their biggest commercial during the Super Bowl. So I don't know, like the fact that Taco Bell specifically is listed leads me to believe that there's some intel there.
John.
I'll go with Intuit. I got my W-2 in the mail this week. I got taxes on the brain. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So
right here, pal.
Yeah, bango. So Yeah, we're a couple of tax-paying citizens here, and I want to see that representation to start off the Super Bowl Sunday, get all pumped up for QuickBooks. Let's go.
All right. Very good. All right, prediction time. Who is taking home a Lombardi Trophy? John?
Give me the Cincinnati Bengals 27. Give me the Los Angeles Rams 24. So I will take the Bengals and the over. I think it's like 48.5. So yes, Joe Burrow becomes even more of a living legend, gets to have that insane 2019 at LSU. 2 years later, he also just goes ahead and wins the Super Bowl in his second year in the NFL. So give me the Bengals here. I'm thinking the team of destiny is going to take it home.
Nick?
I really hope that's what happens. Like the rise of Burrow would be like one of the craziest things of all time, just like an all-time doesn't miss streak. And like I'm willing to just throw out last year with the torn ACL. Like that's just a minor setback. It does feel like it's just been one linear ascent. However, I've learned as a Jaguars and Packers fan when it comes to NFL that usually the things that I want to happen do not happen. So I've started to incorporate that into betting and picking games over these last couple of years. And frankly, it's been pretty fruitful. So usually I just pick what I don't want to happen. And that is for the LA Rams to win this game. So I'm going to go Rams something like 20. I think it's going to be a weird score, 29-22 Rams.
All right. Yeah, I'm going Rams too. I just feel they pushed all their chips to the middle and it's just worked out so far. They've avoided injuries outside of Robert Woods. It just feels like this is their year. And I don't see Sean McVay going 0-2 in Super Bowls and losing to one of his former assistants. I'm rooting for the Bengals, but I'm going Rams 31, Bengals 24. So give me the over in this one as well. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week on Monkey Knife Fight Live. Thank you guys for watching all season long. I'm sure we'll have plenty of NBA stuff coming out here in the coming weeks. Some baseball stuff. I think we're going to do some NFL draft talk as well here as we get into spring. It's been kind of a tease weather-wise here in the Northeast the past few days. I'm looking forward to spring. But enjoy the Super Bowl, boys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button at Monkey Knife Fight on YouTube, guys. Enjoy the Super Bowl.